play. A fairy tale wolf sheds his skin, gently drifting away, with a twinkle in his eye and a heart full of dreams. He waits for the Friday night glow, where the magic redeems. Oh, the wolf in the moonlight, he's found his true call, reading tales of wonder for one and for all. In a world of stars dancing, his spirit takes flight, with stories of beauty under the starlit night. He picks up a book, the pages worn and wise, every line a whisper under the vast skies, from far off lands where the wild things roam, to enchanted forests where the heart finds home. Oh, the wolf in the moonlight, he's found his true call, reading tales of wonder for one and for all. In a world of stars dancing, his spirit takes flight, with stories of beauty under the starlit night. With every word he reads, he casts a spell of peace, transporting all who listen to a land where joy won't cease. For in these fairy tales, amidst the laughter and tears, the wolf finds his solace, he conquers his fears. As the night grows deeper, he serenades the moon with melodies that linger, a soft and soothing tune. In this sacred hour, where magic abounds, the fairy tale wolf writes love into sound. Oh, the wolf in the moonlight.
Yeah, there's a Slowpoke in chat. Good evening, everyone. It is Friday night. It might be the last Friday night for a while for fairy tales, as I will be involved in Papa Penguin's Cyberpunk Shards from the Edge. I think we're doing our first one tomorrow, and then we will be doing our regular games on Fridays, which means I'll be putting Friday Night Fairy Tales on a pause for a while. I may go ahead and try to get the other recording done so I can finish out the Blue Fairy book, but oh, I caught it. Nice. It may be a while, depending on if the games are going on or not. If the games don't happen, I'll go ahead and stream. If they do happen, well, I won't. Makes sense, doesn't it? But yeah, it is Friday night, and we're doing fairy tales, because, well, that's what the song said. It's Friday Night Fairy Tales. I've got one cat on the pillow right now, and it is my big fluffy boy Spy. Big soft teddy bear of a black cat. What am I hearing? Okay, I'm hearing someone playing with a comb. But I'm lurking in 2 streams right now because I'm lurking both in Myco Psychos and I am lurking in Papa Penguins. But as I said, we'll be doing games on Papa Penguin's channel. We're trying to figure out how we can get it to stream on both channels at the same time. But feel free to give Papa Penguin a follow. Right now, he's playing Dead by Daylight with people, so... Oh, excuse me. Nope, did it twice. Because Fosabot is late. Hey, Guilty. Damn, Fosabot. Getting a little jumpy there, aren't you? On your way to work. Okay. Well, hopefully you have a good night at work and nothing too crazy goes on. I know there's never any promises of lack of crazy, but there's never any promise of lack of crazy anyway. But I was just saying that next couple of weeks I'll be over on Papa Penguin's channel because we'll be doing tabletop version of Cyberpunk. So it'll be interesting. I think he said we're doing... Hold on, let me see what the name of the game is. We're doing Shards from the Edge. So, it'll be interesting. Oh, I believe we're going to be doing that 8 p.m. Central, so 9 Eastern. Usually running about 3-hour sessions. So, Fairy Tales will be off for a bit. I said I will try to get the missing stories from Blue Fairy book recorded so I can get those uploaded. And Spy is bathing himself. Because fluffy cats need to be clean. Let's go ahead and... I really need to finish the updated library scene. But anyway... we are in the Violet Fairy book. So we'll get into the stories. Our first fabulous fairy tale for this Friday night, which already looks like it will be an interesting one. The Child Who Came from an Egg. Once upon a time there lived a queen whose heart was sore because she had no children. She was sad enough when her husband was at home with her, but when he was away, she would see nobody, but sat and wept all day long. Now it happened that a war broke out with the king of the neighboring country, and the queen was left in the palace all alone. She was so unhappy that she felt as if the walls would stifle her, so she wandered out into the garden and threw herself down on the grassy bank under the shade of a lime tree. She had been there for some time when a rustle among the leaves caused her to look up, and she saw an old woman limping on her crutches toward the stream that flowed through the grounds. When she had quenched her thirst, she came straight up to the queen and said to her, "Do not take it evil, noble lady, that I dare to speak to you, and do not be afraid, for it may be that I shall bring you good luck." The queen looked at her doubtfully and answered, "You do not even seem as if you have had a very lucky yourself, or to have had much good fortune to spare for anyone else." "Under the rough bark lies smooth wood and sweet kernel," replied the old woman. "Let me see your hand, that I may read the future." The queen held out her hand, and the old woman examined the lines very closely. Then she said, "Your heart is heavy with two sorrows, one old and one new. The new sorrow is for your husband, who is fighting far away from you, but believe me, he is well, and will soon bring you joyful news. But your other sorrow is much older than this. Your happiness is spoilt because you have no children." At these words the queen became scarlet and tried to draw her hand, but the old woman said, "Have a little patience, for there are some things I want to see more clearly." "But who are you?" asked the queen, "for you seem to be able to read my heart." "Never mind my name," answered she, "but rejoice that it is permitted to me to show you the way to lessen your grief. You must, however, promise to do exactly what I tell you, if any good is to come of it." "Oh, I will obey you exactly," cried the queen, "and if you can help me, you shall have in return anything you want for." The old woman stood thinking for a little. Then she drew something from the folds of her dress, and undoing a number of wrappings, brought out a tiny little basket made of birch bark. She held it out to the queen, saying, "In this basket you will find a bird's egg. This you must be careful to keep in a warm place for 3 months, for when it turns into a doll, lay the doll in a basket lined with soft wool and leave it alone, for it will not need any food, and by you will find it has grown to be the size of a baby. Then you will have a baby of your own, and you must put it by the side of the other child. Bring your husband to see his son and daughter. The boy you will bring up by yourself, but you must entrust the little girl to a nurse. When the time comes to have them christened, you will invite me to be the godmother to the princess, and this is how you must send the invitation. Hidden in the cradle you'll find a goose's wing. Throw this out the window, and I will be with you directly. But be sure you tell no one of all the things that have befallen you." The queen was about to reply, But the old woman was already limping away, and before she had gone 2 steps, she had turned into a young girl who moved so quickly that she seemed rather to fly than to walk. The queen, watching this transformation, could hardly believe her eyes, and would have taken it all for a dream had it not been for the basket which she held in her hand. Feeling a different being from the poor, sad woman who had wandered into the gardens so short a time before, she hastened to her room and felt carefully in the basket for the egg. There it was, a tiny thing of soft blue with little green spots, and she took it out and kept it in her bosom, which was the warmest place she could think of. A fortnight after the old woman had paid her visit, the king came home, having conquered his enemies. At this proof that the old woman had spoken truth, the queen's heart bounded, for she now had fresh hopes and spoken truth. For she now had fresh hopes that the rest of the prophecy might be fulfilled. She cherished the basket and the egg as her chiefest treasures, and had a golden case made for the basket so that when the time came to lay the egg in it, it might not risk any harm. 3 months passed, and as the woman had bidden her, the queen took the egg from her bosom and laid it snugly amidst the warm woolen folds. The next morning she went to look at it, and the first thing she saw was the broken eggshell and a little doll lying among the pieces. Then she felt happy at last, and leaving the doll in peace to grow, waited, as she had been told, for a baby of her own to lay beside it. In time, of course, this came also, and the queen took the little girl out of the basket and placed it with her son in a golden cradle which glittered with precious stones. Next she sent for the king, who nearly went mad with joy at the sight of the children. Soon there came a day when the whole court was ordered to be present at the christening of the royal babies, and when all was ready the queen softly opened a window a little and let the goose-wing fly out. The guests were coming thick and fast when suddenly there drove up a splendid coach drawn by 6 cream-colored horses, and out of it stepped a young lady dressed in garments that shone like the sun. Her face could not be seen, for a veil covered her head, but as soon as she came up to the place where the queen was standing with the babies, she drew the veil aside, and everyone was dazzled with her beauty. She took the little girl in her arms, and holding it up before the assembled company, announced that henceforth it would be known by the name of Daughterine, a name which no one understood but the queen, who knew that the baby had come from the yolk of an egg. The boy was called William. After the feast was over and the guests were going away, the godmother laid the baby in the cradle and said to the queen, "Whenever the baby goes to sleep, be sure you lay the basket beside her and leave the eggshells in it. As long as you do that, no evil can come to her. And guard this treasure as the apple of your eye, and teach your daughter to do so likewise." Then, kissing the baby 3 times, she mounted her coach and drove away. The children throve well, and Daughterine's nurse loved her as if she were the baby's real mother. Every day the little girl seemed to grow prettier, and people used to say she would soon be as beautiful as her godmother, but no one knew, except the nurse, that at night when the child slept, a strange and lovely lady bent over her. At length she told the queen what she had seen, but they determined to keep it a secret between themselves. The twins were by this time 2 years old when the queen was suddenly taken ill. All the best doctors in the country were sent for, but it was of no use, for there is no cure for death. The queen knew she was dying, and sent for Daughterine and her nurse, who had now become her lady-in-waiting. To her, as her most faithful servant, she gave the lucky basket in charge, and besought her to treasure it carefully. "When my daughter," said the queen, "is 10 years old, you are to hand it over to her, but warn her solemnly that her whole future happiness depends on the way she guards it. About my son, I have no fears. He is the heir to the kingdom, and his father will look after him." The lady-in-waiting promised to carry out the queen's directions, and above all, to keep the affair a secret. And that same morning, the queen died. After some years, the king remarried, and he did not love his second wife as he had done his first, and had only married her for the reasons of ambition. She hated her stepchildren, and the king, seeing this, kept them out of the way, under the care of Dauterine's old nurse. But if they were ever strayed across the path of the queen, she would kick them out of her sight like dogs. On Dauterine's 10th birthday, her nurse handed over the cradle and repeated to her her mother's dying words. But the child was too young to understand the value of such a gift, and at first thought little about it. 2 more years slipped by when one day during the king's absence, the stepmother found Dauterine sitting under the lime tree. She fell, as usual, into a passion and beat the child so badly that Dauterine went staggering to her own room. Her nurse was there, and suddenly she stood weeping. Her eyes fell upon the golden case in which lay the precious basket. She thought it might contain something to amuse her, so she looked inside eagerly. But nothing was there save a handful of wool and 2 empty eggshells. Very much disappointed, she lifted the wool, and there lay the goose's wing. "Oh, what rubbish!" said the child to herself, and turning, threw the wing out of the open window. In a moment a beautiful lady stood beside her. "Do not be afraid," said the lady, stroking Dauterine's head. "I am your godmother, and I have come to pay you a visit. Your red eyes tell me that you are unhappy. I know that your stepmother is very unkind to you, but be brave and be patient, and better days will come. She will have no power over you when you are grown up, and no one else can hurt you either, if only you are careful never to part from your basket, or to lose the eggshells that are in it. Make a silken case for the little basket, and hide it away in your dress night and day, and you will be safe from your stepmother and anyone who tries to harm you. But if you should happen to find yourself in any difficulty, and cannot tell what to do, take the goose's wing from the basket and throw it out the window, and in a moment I will come to help you. Now, come to the garden that I may talk to you under the lime trees, where no one can hear us." They had so much to say to each other that the sun was already setting when the godmother had ended all the good advice she wished to give the child, and so it was time for her to be going. "Hand me the basket," she said, "for you have some supper. I cannot let you go to bed hungry." Then, bending over the basket, she whispered some magic words, and instantly a table covered with fruits and cakes stood on the ground before them. They had finished eating. The godmother led the child back, and on the way taught her the words she must say to the basket when she wanted to give her something. In a few years more, Dauterine was a grown-up young lady, and those who saw her thought the world did not contain so lovely a girl. I seem to have lost internet connection. Possibly. Yep, I have been disconnected. Oh well. I will continue, because I have to. About this time, a terrible war broke out, and the king and his army were beaten back and back, till at length they had to retire into the town and make ready for a siege. It lasted so long that food began to fail, and even in the palace there was not enough to eat. So one morning, Dotterine, who had had neither supper nor breakfast, was very hungry and let her wing fly away. She was so weak and miserable that directly her godmother appeared, she burst into tears and could not speak for some time. "Do not cry so, dear child," said the godmother. "I will carry you away from all this, but the others I must leave to their chance." Then, bidding Dotterine follow her, she passed through the gates of the town and through the army outside, and nobody stopped them, or even seemed to see them. The next day the town surrendered, and the king and all his courtiers were taken prisoner, but in the confusion his son managed to make his escape. The queen had already met her death from a spear carelessly thrown. As soon as Dotterine and her godmother were clear of the enemy, Dotterine took off her own clothes and put on those of a peasant, and in order to disguise her better, her godmother changed her face completely. "When better times come," her protectress said cheerfully, "and you want to look like yourself again, you only have to whisper the words I have taught you into the basket, and say you would like to have your own face once more, and it will be all right in a moment. But you will have to endure a little longer yet." Then, warning her once more to take care of the basket, the lady bade the girl farewell. For many days Dotterine wandered from one place to another without finding shelter, and though the food which she got from the basket prevented her from starving, she was glad enough to take service in a peasant's home till brighter days dawned. At first, the work she had to do seemed very difficult, but either she was wonderfully quick in learning, or else the basket may have secretly helped her. Anyhow, at the end of the 3 days she could do everything as well as if she had cleaned pots and swept rooms all her life. One day Dotterine was busy scouring a wooden tub, when a noble lady happened to pass through the village. The girl's bright face, as she stood in front of the door with her tub, attracted the lady, and she stopped and called the girl to come and speak to her. "Would you not like to come into my service?" she asked. "Very much," said Dotterine, "if my present mistress will allow me." "Oh, I will settle that," answered the lady, and so she did, and the same day they set out for the lady's house, Dotterine sitting beside the coachman. 6 months went by, and then joyful news that the king's son had collected an army and had defeated the usurper who had taken his father's place, and in the same moment Dotterine learned that the old king had died in captivity. The girl wept bitterly for his loss, but in secrecy, as she had told her mistress nothing about her past life. At the end of a year of mourning, the young king let it be known that he intended to marry, and commanded all the maidens in the kingdom to come to a feast, so that he might choose a wife from among them. For weeks all the mothers and all the daughters in the land were busy preparing beautiful dresses and trying new ways of putting up their hair, and the 3 lovely daughters of Dotterine's mistress were very much excited as the rest. The girl was clever with her fingers, and was occupied all day with getting ready their smart clothes, but at night when she went to bed she always dreamed that her godmother bent over her and said, "Dress your young ladies for the feast, and when they have started, follow them yourself. Nobody will be so fine as you." When the great day came, Dotterine could hardly contain herself, and when she had dressed her young mistresses and seen them depart with their mother, she flung herself on the bed and burst into tears. And then she seemed to remember the voice whispering to her, "Look in your basket, and you will find everything that you need." Daughterine did not want to be told twice. Up she jumped and seized her basket and repeated her magic words, and behold, there lay a dress on the bed, shining as a star. She put it on her fingers that trembled with joy, and looking in a glass, she was struck dumb with her own beauty. She went downstairs, and in front of the door stood a fine carriage into which she stepped, and was driven away like the wind. I can't tell if we're back on. It says we are. It says I have internet again. No, good. We are back. My internet went out. I'm going to blame the weather. The king's palace was a long way off, yet it seemed only a few minutes before Daughterine drew up to the great gates. She was just going out to alight when she suddenly remembered she had left her basket behind her. What was she to do? Go back and fetch it, lest some ill fortune should befall her? Or enter the palace and trust to chance that nothing evil would happen? But before she could decide, a little swallow flew up with the basket in its beak, and the girl was very happy. The feast was already at its height, and the hall was brilliant with youth and beauty, when the door was flung wide, and Daughterine entered, making all the other maidens look pale and dim beside her. Their hopes faded as they gazed, but their mothers whispered together, saying, "Surely this is the lost princess." The young king did not know her again, but he never left her side nor took his eyes from her. And at midnight a strange thing happened. A thick cloud suddenly filled the hall, so that for a moment all was dark. Then the mist suddenly grew bright, and Daughterine's godmother was seen standing there. "This," she said, turning to the king, "is a girl whom you have always believed to be your sister, and who vanished under the siege. She is not your sister at all, but the daughter of a king of a neighboring country, who was given to your mother to bring up, to save her from the hands of a wizard." Then she vanished, and was never seen again, nor the wonder-working basket either. But now that Daughterine's troubles were over, she could get on without them, and she and the young king lived happily together till the end of their days. Okay, so I didn't really want to stop the story, but it kind of did a Cinderella thing. Pretty much, I think the internet cut out when a war started and her adoptive father was taken captive. Her stepmother was run through by a carelessly thrown spear, and she and her godmother escaped. But yeah, I'll try to make sure everything is up on the YouTube channel. Or I may just upload the entire video. Well, I'm going to upload the cut stories anyway. But yeah, that was the first story. And I don't know who's actually subscribed, but the ads are playing. Why do I not hear my background noise? No, because it's not playing. That could be an issue. It did not restart itself. Anyway. until the ads are over again before I start the next story. Since, I don't know who's a subscriber and who isn't anymore. I don't really guess I have a way I can check that, do I? Community. Nah, I just get followers list. Is there a way to tell who's actually a subscriber? I don't know. I mean, I've got 6 subscribers, and one of them is one of my mods because they got one of the ones I offered. Okay, ads are over again. So if you missed the fairy tale, I apologize, but we're getting snow. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Anyway, I guess we're back. I don't know. Guilty, did you leave during the ads or when I was disconnected? Give me a woo if you're here. Maybe. I don't know. Ouch. I don't even know if I would have checked to see who is here. All it says is I've got 1 viewer. That's about all I see. I'm not sure I'd count all the different mod bots as viewers. I will have Fossa, Frosty Tool, Stream Elements, StereoBot, Pokemon Game, Kel, and Coffee Stream Bots. Then 2 people actually listed as viewers, but I'm not going to say their names because, well, if they're lurking, I don't want to shout them out. So if you're here, thank you. If you're not here, well, thank you for watching the VODs later on, I guess. Anyway, let's get into our second fairy tale. This is another one that I have read before in another book. But our second story for this fabulous night of fairy tales, Stan Bolovan. Once upon a time, what happened did happen, and if it had not happened, the story would never have been told. On the outskirts of a village, just where the oxen were turned out to pasture and the pigs roamed about burrowing with their noses among the roots of trees, there stood a small house. In this house lived a man who had a wife, and the wife was sad all day long. "Dear wife, what is wrong with you that you hang your head like a drooping rosebud?" asked the man one morning. "You have everything you want. Why cannot you be merry like the other women?" "Leave me alone, and do not seek to know the reason," answered she, bursting into tears, and the man thought it was no time to question her, and went away to work. He could not, however, forget all about it, and a few days after he inquired again the reason for her sadness, but only got the same reply. At length he felt he could bear it no longer, and tried a 3rd time, and this time his wife turned and answered him, "Good gracious, she cried. Why did you not let things be as they are? If I were to tell you, you would become just as wretched as myself. If you would only believe, it is far better for you to know nothing. But no man yet has ever been content with such an answer. The more you beg him not to inquire, the greater is his curiosity to learn the whole truth. Well, if you must know, said the wife at last, I will tell you. There is no luck in this house, no luck at all. Is not your cow the best milker in our village? Are not your trees as full of fruit as your hives are full of bees? Has anyone cornfields like ours? Really, you talk nonsense when you say things like that. Yes, all that you say is true, but we have no children. Then Stan understood. And when a man once understands and he has his eyes opened, it is no longer well with him. From that day, the little house in the outskirts contained an unhappy man as well as an unhappy woman. And at the sight of her husband's misery, the woman became even more wretched than ever. And so matters went on for some time. Some weeks had passed, and Stan thought he would consult a wise man who lived a day's journey from his own house. The wise man was sitting before his door when he came up, and Stan fell on his knees before him. Give me children, my lord, give me children. Take care of what you're asking, replied the wise man. Will not children be a burden to you? Are you rich enough to feed and clothe them? Only give them to me, my lord, and I will manage somehow. And at a sign from the wise man, Stan went away. He reached home that evening, tired and dusty, but with hope in his heart. As he drew near his house, the sound of voices struck upon his ear, and he looked up to see a whole place full of children. Children in the garden, children in the yard, children looking out of every window. It seemed to the man as if all the children in the world must be gathered there. And none was bigger than the other, but each was smaller than the other, and every one was more noisy and more impudent and more daring than the rest. And Stan gazed and grew cold with horror as he realized that they all belonged to him. Good gracious, how many are there? How many? He muttered to himself. Oh, but not one too many, smiled his wife, coming up with a crowd of more children clinging to her skirts. But even she found it was not so easy to look after 100 children, and when a few days had passed and they had eaten up all the food there was in the house, they began to cry, Father, I'm hungry! Father, I'm hungry! Till Stan scratched his head and wondered what he was to do next. It was not that he had thought there were too many children, for his life had seemed more full of joy since they appeared, but now it came to the point he did not know how he was to feed them. The cow had ceased to give milk, and it was too early for the fruit trees to grow. Do you know, old woman, he one day said to his wife, I must go out into the world and try to bring back food somehow, though I cannot tell where it will come from. To the hungry man, any road is long, and there are always the thought that he himself had to satisfy 100 greedy children as well as himself. Stan wandered and wandered and wandered till he reached the end of the world, where that which is mingled with that which is not. And there he saw, a little way off, a sheepfold, with 7 sheep in it. In the shadow of some trees lay the rest of the flock. Stan crept up, hoping he might manage to decoy some of them away quietly and drive them home for food for his family. But as soon as he found this could not be, for at midnight he heard a rustling noise, and through the air flew a dragon, who drove apart a ram, a sheep, and a lamb, and 3 fine cattle that were lying down close by. And besides these, he took the milk of 77 sheep and carried it home to his old mother, that she might bathe in it and grow young again. And this happened every night. The shepherd bewailed himself in vain, but the dragon only laughed, and Stan saw that this was not the place to get food for his family. But though he quite understood that it was almost hopeless to fight against such a powerful monster, yet the thought of the hungry children at home clung to him like a burr, and would not be shaken off. And at last he said to the shepherd, "What will you give me if I get rid of the dragon?" "Oh, 1 of every 3 rams, 1 of every 3 sheep, and 1 of every 3 lambs," answered the herd. "It's a bargain," replied Stan, though at the moment he did not know how, supposing he did come off the victor, he would be able to drive so large a flock home. However, that matter could be settled later. At present, night was not far off, and he must consider how best to fight with a dragon. Just at midnight, a horrible feeling that the new and strange to him came over Stan, a feeling that he could not quite put into words even to himself, but which almost forced him to give up the battle and take the shortest road home again. He half turned, then remembered the children, and turned back. "You or I," said Stan to himself, and took up his position on the edge of the flock. "Stop!" he suddenly cried, as the air was filled with a rushing noise, and the dragon came dashing past. "Dear me," exclaimed the dragon, looking round. "Who are you, and where do you come from?" "I am Stan Bolovan, who eats rocks at night and in the day feeds on flowers of the mountain. If you meddle with those sheep, I will carve a cross on your back." When the dragon heard these words, he stood quite still in the middle of the road, for he knew he had met his match. "But you will have to fight me first," he said in a trembling voice, for when you faced him properly, he was not brave at all. "I fight you?" replied Stan. "Why, I could slay you with 1 breath." Then, stooping to pick up a large cheese which lay at his feet, he added, "Go and get a stone like this out of the river, that we may lose no time in seeing who is the best man." The dragon did as Stan bade him, and brought back a stone out of the brook. "Can you get buttermilk out of your stone?" asked Stan. The dragon picked up the stone with one hand and squeezed it until it fell into powder, but no buttermilk flowed from it. "Of course I can't," he said, half angrily. "Well, if you can't, I can," answered Stan, and he pressed the cheese till buttermilk flowed through his fingers. When the dragon saw that, he thought it was time he made the best of his way home, but Stan stood in his path. "We still have some accounts to settle," said he, "about what you have been doing here." And the poor dragon was too frightened to stir, lest Stan should slay him at 1 breath and bury him among the flowers of the mountain pastures. "Listen to me," he said at last. I see you are a very useful person, and my mother has need of a fellow like you. Suppose you enter her service for 3 days, which are as long as one of your years, and she will pay you each day 7 sacks full of ducats. 3 times 7 sacks full of ducats. The offer was tempting, and Stan could not resist it. He did not waste words, but nodded to the dragon, and they started along the road. It was a long, long way, but when they came to the end, they found the dragon's mother, who was as old as time itself, expecting them. Stan saw her eyes shining like lamps from afar, and when they entered the house, they beheld a huge kettle standing on the fire, filled with milk. When the old mother found that her son had arrived empty-handed, she grew very angry, and fire and flame darted from her nostrils. But before she could speak to the dragon, turned to Stan. Stay here, he said, and wait for me. I'm going to explain things to my mother. Stan was already repenting bitterly that he had ever come across such a place. But since he was there was nothing for him to do but to take everything quietly, and not show that he was afraid. Listen, mother, said the dragon as soon as they were alone. I have brought this man in order to get rid of him. He's a terrific fellow who eats rocks and can press buttermilk out of a stone. And he told her all that had happened the night before. Oh, just leave him to me, she said. I've never let a man slip through my fingers. So Stan had to stay and do the old mother service. The next day, she told him that he and her son should try which was the strongest, and she took down a huge club, bound 7 times with iron. The dragon picked it up as if it had been a feather, and after whirling it around his head, flung it lightly 3 miles away, telling Stan to beat that if he could. They walked to the spot where the club lay. Stan stooped and felt it, and a great fear came over him, for he knew that he and all his children together would never be able to lift that club from the ground. Oh, what are you doing? Asked the dragon. I was thinking what a beautiful club it was, and what a pity that it should cause your death. How? What do you mean, my death? Asked the dragon. Only that I'm afraid that if I throw it, you will never see another dawn. You don't know how strong I am. Oh, never mind, and be quick and throw. If you're really in earnest, let us go and feast for 3 days. That will, at any rate, give you 3 extra days of life. Stan spoke so calmly that this time the dragon began to get a little frightened, though he did not quite believe that things would be so bad as Stan said. They returned to the house and took all the food that could be found in the old mother's larder and carried it back to the place where the club was laying. Then Stan seated himself on a rock and sack of provisions and quietly remained watching the setting moon. Oh, what are you doing? Asked the dragon. Waiting till the moon gets out of my way. What do you mean? I don't understand. Don't you see that the moon is exactly in my way? But, of course, if you like, I will throw the club into the moon. At these words, the dragon grew uncomfortable for a second time. He prized the club, which had been left by him by his grandfather, very highly, and had no desire that it should be lost to the moon. I'll tell you what, he said, after thinking a little. Don't throw the club at all. I will throw it a second time, and that will do just as well. No, certainly not, replied Stan. Just wait until the moon sets. But the dragon, in dread lest Stan should fulfill his threats, tried what bribes could do, and in the end had to promise Stan 7 sacks of ducats before he was suffered to throw the club back himself. "Oh, dear me, that is indeed a strong man," said the dragon, turning to his mother. "Would you believe that I have had the greatest difficulty in preventing him from throwing the club to the moon?" Then the old woman grew uncomfortable too. Only think of it. It was no joke to throw things into the moon. So no more was heard of the club, and the next day they all had something else to think about. "Go and fetch me water," said the mother when the morning broke, and gave them 12 buffalo skins with the other to keep filling them until night. Then they set out at once for the brook. In a twinkling of an eye, the dragon had filled the whole 12 and carried them into the house and brought them back to Stan. Stan was tired and could scarcely lift the buckets when they were empty, and he shuddered to think of what would happen when they were full. But he only took an old knife out of his pocket and began to scratch up the earth near the brook. "What are you doing there? How are you going to carry the water into the house?" asked the dragon. "How, dear me? That is easy enough. I shall just take the brook." At these words, the dragon's jaw dropped. This was the last thing that had ever entered his head, for the brook had been twice as safe as his grandfather. "I'll tell you what," he said. "Let me carry your skins for you." "Most certainly not," answered Stan, going on with his digging, and the dragon, in dread that he should fulfill his threat, tried what bribes would do, and in the end he had to promise 7 sacks of ducats before Stan would agree to leave the brook alone and let him carry his water back into the house. On the 3rd day, the old mother sent Stan into the forest for wood, and, as usual, the dragon went with him. Before you could count 3, he had pulled up more trees than Stan could have cut down in a lifetime, and had arranged them neatly in rows. When the dragon had finished, Stan began to look about him, and then, choosing the biggest tree, he climbed up it, and breaking off a long rope of wild vine, bound the top of the tree to the next one, and he did so to a long line of trees. "What are you doing there?" asked the dragon. "You can see for yourself," answered Stan, going quietly on with his work. "Why are you tying the trees together?" "Not to give myself unnecessary work. When I pull one up, all the others will come up too." But how can you carry them home?" "Dear me, don't you understand that I'm going to take the whole forest back with me?" said Stan, tying 2 other trees as he spoke. "I'll tell you what," cried the dragon, trembling in fear at the thought of such a thing. "Let me carry the wood for you, and you shall have 7 times 7 sacks full of ducats." "You are a good fellow, and I agree to your proposal," answered Stan, and the dragon carried the wood. Now the 3 days' service, which were to be reckoned as a year, were over, and the only thing that disturbed Stan was how to get all those ducats back home. In the evening the dragon and his mother had a long talk, but Stan heard every word through a crack in the ceiling. "Woe be on us, mother," said the dragon. "This man will soon get into sin's full power. Give him his money, and let us be rid of him." But the old mother was fond of money, and did not like this. "Listen to me," she said. "You must murder him this very night." "I am afraid," he answered. "There is nothing to fear," replied the old mother. "When he is asleep, take the club and hit him on the head with it. It is easily done." And so it would have been, had Stan not heard all about it. And when the dragon and his mother put out all the lights, he took the pig's trough and filled it with earth, and placed it in his bed, and covered it with his clothes. Then he hid himself underneath, and began to snore loudly. Very soon the dragon stole softly into the room, and gave a tremendous blow on the spot where Stan's head should have been. Stan groaned loudly from under the bed, and the dragon went away as softly as he had come in. Directly as he had closed the door, Stan lifted out the pig's trough and lay himself down, and making everything clean and tidy, but he was wise enough not to shut his eyes that night. The next morning he came into the room when the dragon and his mother were having breakfast. "Good morning," he said. "Good morning. How did you sleep?" "Oh, very well, but I dreamed a flea had bit me, and I seemed to still feel it." The dragon and his mother looked at each other. "Did you hear that?" whispered he. "He talks of a flea. I broke my club on his head." This time the mother grew as frightened as her son. There was nothing to be done with a man like this, and she made all haste to fill the sacks with the cuts, as if to get rid of Stan as soon as possible. But on his side Stan was trembling like an aspen, as he could not even lift one sack from the ground. So he stood still and looked at them. "Well, what are you standing there for?" asked the dragon. "Oh, I was standing here because it had just occurred to me that I should like to stay in your service for another year. I'm ashamed that when I get home they should see that I have brought so little back. I know that they will cry out, 'Just look at Stan Bolovan, who in 1 year has grown as weak as a dragon.'" There was a shriek of dismay from both the dragon and his mother, who declared that they would give him 7, or even 7 times 7, the sacks, if he would just go away. "I'll tell you what," said Stan at last. "I see you don't want me to stay, and I should be very sorry to make myself disagreeable. I will go at once, but only on the condition that you shall carry the money home yourself, so that I may not be put to shame before my friends." The words were hardly out of his mouth before the dragon had snatched up the sacks and piled them on his back. Then he and Stan set forth. The way, though not really far, was yet too long for Stan, but at length he heard his children's voices and stopped short. He did not wish the dragon to know where he lived, lest some day he should come back to take his treasure. There was nothing he could say to get rid of the monster. And suddenly an idea came into Stan's head, and he turned around. "I hardly know what to do," he said. "I have 100 children, and I'm afraid they might do you some harm. They are always ready for a fight. However, I will do my best to protect you." 100 children? That was indeed no joke. The dragon let fall the sacks from terror, and then picked them up again. But the children, who had had nothing to eat since their father had left them, came rushing towards him, waving knives in their right hands and forks in their left, crying out, "Give us dragon flesh! We will have dragon's flesh!" At this dreadful sight, the dragon waited no longer and flung down the sacks where he stood, and took flight as fast as he could, so terrified at the fate that awaited him from that day, he was never dared to show his face again in the world. Well, normally about this time I would be taking a break, but since internet happened, I will continue. So So our next story on this fabulous Friday night of fairy tales, a fairly short one, to be honest. The Two Frogs. Once upon a time in the country of Japan there lived two frogs, one of whom made his home in a ditch near the town of Osaka on the seacoast, while the other dwelt in a little clear stream which ran through the city of Kyoto. At such a great distance apart they had never even heard of each other, but, funnily enough, the idea came into both their heads at once that they should like to see a little of the world, and the frog who lived in Kyoto wanted to visit Osaka, and the frog who lived in Osaka wished to go to Kyoto, where the great Mikado had his palace. So one fine morning in the spring they both set out along the road that led from Kyoto to Osaka, one from one end and the other from the other. The journey was more tiring than they expected, for they did not know much about traveling, and halfway between the two towns there rose a mountain which had to be climbed. It took them a long time and a great many hops to reach the top, but they were there at last, and what was a surprise to see another frog before him. They looked at each other for a moment without speaking, and then fell into conversation, explaining the cause of their meeting so far from their homes. It was delightful to find that they both felt the same wish, to learn a little bit more of their native country. As there was no sort of hurry, they stretched themselves out in a cool, damp place, and agreed that they would have a good rest before they parted to finish their ways. "What a pity we are not bigger," said the Osaka frog, "for then we could see both towns from here, and tell if it is worth going on." "Oh, that is easily managed," replied the Kyoto frog. "We have only got to stand up on our hind legs and hold on to each other, and then we can each look at the town he is traveling to." This idea pleased the Osaka frog so much that at once he jumped up and put his front paws on the shoulders of his friend, who had also risen. There they both stood, stretching themselves as high as they could, and then holding each other tightly so that they might not fall down. The Kyoto frog turned his nose towards Osaka, and the Osaka frog turned his nose towards Kyoto. But the foolish things forgot that when they stood up, the great eyes lay at the back of their heads, and that they thought their noses might point in the places to which they wanted to go, their eyes beheld the places from which they had come. "Dear me," cried the Osaka frog, "Kyoto is exactly like Osaka. It is certainly not worth such a long journey. I shall go home." "If I had any idea that Osaka was only a copy of Kyoto, I should never have traveled this way," exclaimed the frog from Kyoto. And as he spoke, he took his hands from his friend's shoulders, and they both fell down to the grass. Then they took a polite farewell to each other, and set off for home again. To the end of their lives they believed that Osaka and Kyoto, which are different to look at as two towns can be, were like as two peas. Frogs. Ouch. Let's see, how long is the next one? Okay, the Gazelle. I've also read before, but it is 12 pages long. I've got 26 minutes before it'll try to do ads again, so I will try to get through it. This is the story of a gazelle. Okay. Well, it is, actually. Our next story for this fabulous Friday Night of Fairy Tales. The story of a gazelle. Once upon a time there lived a man who wasted all his money, and grew so poor that his only food was a few grains of corn, which he scratched like a fowl from a dust heap. One day he was scratching as usual among the dust heap in the street, hoping to find something for breakfast, when his eyes fell upon a small silver coin, called an 8, which he greedily snatched up. Now I can have a proper meal, he thought, and after drinking some water at a well, he lay down and slept so long that it was sunrise before he woke again. Then he jumped up and returned to the dust heap, for who knows, he said to himself, whether I may not have some good luck again. As he was walking down the road, he saw a man coming towards him, carrying a cage made of twigs. "Hi, you fellow," he said. "What have you got inside there?" "Gazelles," replied the man. "Bring them here, for I should like to see them." As he spoke, some men who were standing by began to laugh, saying that the man with the cage, "You'd better take care how you bargain with him, for he has nothing at all except what he picks up from a dust heap, and if he can't feed himself, he'll never be able to feed a gazelle." But the man with the cage made answer, "Since I started from my home and country, 50 people have at least called me to show them my gazelles, and was there one among them who cared to buy? It is the custom of the trader and merchandise to be summoned hither and thither, and who knows where one might find a buyer?" And he took up his cage and went towards the scratcher of dust heaps, and the men went with him. "What do you ask for your gazelles?" asked the beggar. "Will you let me have one for an 8th?" And the man with the cage took out a gazelle and held it out, saying, "Take this one, master." And the beggar took it, and carried it to the dust heap, where it scratched carefully until he found a few grains of corn, which he divided with his gazelle. This he did night and morning, till 5 days went by. Then, as he slept, the gazelle woke him, saying, "Master." And the man answered, "How is it that I see a wonder?" "What wonder?" asked the gazelle. "Why, that you, a gazelle, should be able to speak. For from the beginning my father and mother and all people that are in the world have never told me of a talking gazelle." "Never mind that," said the gazelle, "but listen to what I say. First, I took you for my master. Second, you gave me all you had in the world. I cannot run away from you. But give me, I pray you, leave to go every morning and seek food for myself, and in every evening I will come back to you. What you find in the dust heaps is not enough for the both of us." "Go then," answered the master, and the gazelle went. When the sun had set, the gazelle came back, and the poor man was very glad, and they lay down and slept side by side. In the morning it said to him, "I am going away to feed." And the man answered, "Go, my son." And he felt very lonely without his gazelle, and set out sooner than usual for the dust heap, where he generally found most of his corn. He was glad when the evening came and he could return home. He lay on the grass chewing tobacco, when the gazelle trotted up to him. "Good evening, my master. How have you fared all day? I've been resting in the shade in the place where there's sweet grass when I am hungry, and fresh water when I am thirsty, and a soft breeze will fan me in the heat. It is far away in the forest, and no one knows of it but me, and tomorrow I shall go again." So, for 5 days the gazelle set off at daybreak for his cool spot, but on the 5th day it came to a place where the grass was bitter, and it did not like it. It scratched, and hoping to tear away the bad blades, but instead he saw something lying in the earth, which turned out to be a diamond, very large and very bright. "Oh," said the gazelle to itself, "perhaps now I can do something for my master who bought me with all the money he had. But I'd best be careful, or they will say that I have stolen it. I'd better take it myself to some great rich man and see what he will do for it." Directly the gazelle had come to his conclusion, it picked up the diamond in its mouth and went on and on and on through the forest, but found no place where a rich man was likely to dwell. For 2 more days it ran, from dawn till dark, till last early one morning it caught sight of a large town, which gave it fresh courage. The people were standing about the streets doing marketing when the gazelle bounded past, the diamond flashing as it ran. They called after it, but it took no notice till it reached the palace, where the Sultan was sitting, enjoying the cool air. And the Gazelle galloped up to him and laid the diamond at his feet. The Sultan looked at first at the diamond and next to the Gazelle. Then he ordered his attendants to bring cushions and a carpet that the Gazelle might rest itself after a long journey. And he likewise ordered milk to be brought and rice, that it might eat and drink and be refreshed. When the Gazelle had rested, the Sultan said to it, "Give me the news you have come with." And the Gazelle answered, "I come with a diamond, which is a pledge from my master, the Sultan Durai. He has heard you have a daughter, and sends you this token, and begs you will give him to you." And the Sultan said, "I am content. The wife is his wife, the family is his family, the slave is his slave. Let him come to me empty-handed. I am content." When the Sultan had ended, the Gazelle rose and said, "Master, farewell. I will go back to our town, and in 8 days, or maybe 11 days, we shall arrive as guests." And the Sultan answered, "So let it be." All this time the poor man far away had been mourning and weeping for his Gazelle, which he thought had run away from him forever. And when it came back at the door, he rushed to embrace it in such joy that he would not allow it a chance to speak. "Be still, master, and don't cry," said the Gazelle at last. "Let us sleep now, and in the morning, when I go, follow me." With the first ray of dawn, they got up and went into the forest. And on the 5th day, as they were resting near a stream, the Gazelle gave its master a sound beating, and then bade him stay where he was till he returned. And the Gazelle ran off, and about 10 o'clock it came near the Sultan's palace, where the road was all lined with soldiers who were there to do an honor to Sultan Darai. And directly they caught sight of the Gazelle in the distance, one of the soldiers ran on and said, "Sultan Darai is coming! I've seen the Gazelle!" The Sultan rose up and called his whole court to follow him, and went out to meet the Gazelle, who, bounding up to him, gave him greeting. The Sultan answered politely, and inquired where it had left its master, whom it had promised to bring back. "Alas," replied the Gazelle, "it is lying in the forest, for on our way we were met by some robbers, who, after beating and robbing him, took away all his clothes, and now he is hiding under a bush, lest a passing stranger might see him." The Sultan, on hearing what had happened to his future son-in-law, turned his horse and rode to the palace, and bade the groom to harness the best horse in the stable, and order a woman slave to bring a bag of clothes, such that a man might want out of his chest. And he chose out a tunic and turban and a sash for a waist, and fetched himself a gold-hilted sword, and a dagger, and a pair of sandals, and a stick of sweet-smelling wood. "Now," he said to the Gazelle, "take these things with the soldiers to the Sultan, that he might be able to come." And the Gazelle answered, "Can I take the soldiers to go, and put my master to shame that he lies there naked? I am enough by myself, my lord." "How will you be enough," answered the Sultan, "to manage this horse and all these clothes?" "Oh, that is easily done," replied the Gazelle. "Fasten the horse to my neck, and tie the clothes to the back of the horse, and be sure they are fixed firmly, as I shall go faster than he does." Everything was carried out as the Gazelle had ordered, and when all was ready, it said to the Sultan, "Farewell, my lord, I am going." "Farewell, Gazelle," answered the Sultan. "When shall we see you again?" "Tomorrow, about 5, replied the Gazelle, and giving a tug to the horse's reins, they set off at a gallop. The Sultan waited them until they were out of sight, and then he said to his attendants, "That Gazelle comes from gentle hands, from the house of a sultan, and that is what makes it so different from other gazelles." And in the eyes of the Sultan, the Gazelle became a person of consequence. Meanwhile, the gazelle ran till it came to the place where its master was seated, and his heart leapt when he saw the gazelle. And the gazelle said to him, "Get up, my master, and bathe in the stream." And when the man had bathed, it said again, "Now rub yourself well with earth, and rub your teeth with the sand, and make them bright and shining." And when this was done, "The sun has gone down behind the hills. It is time for us to go." And so it went and brought the clothes from the back of the horse, and the man put them on, and was well pleased. "Master," said the gazelle when the man was ready, "be sure that where we are going you keep silence, except for giving greetings and asking for news. Leave all the talking to me. I have provided you with a wife, and have made her presents of clothes and turbans and rare and precious things, so it is needless for you to speak." "Very good, I will be silent," replied the man as he mounted the horse. "You have given all this. It is you who are the master, and I am the slave, and I will obey you in all things." So they went their way. They went and went until the gazelle saw in the distance the palace of the sultan. And then it said, "Master, that is the house we are going to, and you are not a poor man any longer. Even your name is new." "What is my name, my father?" asked the man. "Sultan Darai," said the gazelle. Very soon some soldiers came to meet them, while others ran off to tell the sultan of their approach. And the sultan set off at once, and the viziers and the emirs and judges and rich men of the city all followed him. Directly the gazelle saw them coming, and said to its master, "Your father-in-law is coming to meet you. That is he in the middle, wearing his mantle of sky blue. Get off your horse and go to greet him." And Sultan Darai leapt from his horse, and so did the other sultan, and they gave their hands to one another, and kissed each other, and went together into the palace. The next morning the gazelle went to the rooms of the sultan, and said to him, "My lord, we want you to marry us as our wife, for the soul of Sultan Darai is eager." "My wife is ready, so call the priest," answered he. And when the ceremony was over, a cannon was fired, and music was played, and within the palace there was feasting. "Master," said the gazelle the following morning, "I am setting out on a journey, and I shall not be back for 7 days. Perhaps not then, but be careful to leave the house till I come. Be careful not to leave the house till I come." And the master answered, "I will not leave the house." And it went to the sultan of the country, and said to him, "My lord, Sultan Darai has sent me to his town to get his house in order. It will take me 7 days, and if I am not back in 7 days, he will not leave the palace till I return." "Very good," said the sultan. And it went through the forest and the wilderness, till it arrived at a town full of fine houses. At the end of the chief road was a great house, beautiful exceedingly, built with sapphire and turquoise and marble. "That," thought the gazelle, "is the house for my master, and I will call up my courage to go and look at the people who are in it, if any people are there. For in this town I have yet seen no people. If I die, I die. If I live, I live. Here I can think of no plan, so if anything is to kill me, it will kill me." Then it knocked twice at the door, cried, "Open!" But no one answered, and it cried again, and a voice replied, "Who are you that's crying open?" And the gazelle said, "It is I, great mistress, your grandchild." "If you are my grandchild," answered the voice, "go back whence you came. Don't come and die here, and bring me to my death as well." "Open, mistress, I entreat. I have something to say to you." "Grandchild," replied she, "I fear to put your life in danger, and my own too." "Oh, mistress, my life will not be lost, nor yours either. I pray, open." So she opened the door. So, what is news you come from, my grandson? Asked she.
Great lady, where I come from it is well, and with you it is well.
Ah, my son, here it is not as well at all. If you seek a way to die, or if you have not yet seen death, then today is the day for you to know what dying is.
If I am to know it, I shall know it,
replied the gazelle.
But tell me, who is the lord of this house?
And she said, Ah, father, in this house is much wealth, but much people, much food, and many horses. And the lord of all of it is exceedingly great and wonderful snake.
Oh,
cried the gazelle when he heard this.
Tell me how I can get the snake to kill me. Tell me how I can get at the snake to kill him.
Oh, my son, replied the old woman, do not say words like these. You risk both our lives. He has put me here all by myself, and I have to cook his food. When the great snake is coming, there springs up a wind and blows the dust about, and this goes on till the great snake glides into the courtyard and calls for his dinner, which must always be ready for him in those big pots. He eats till he has had enough, and then drinks a whole tankful of water. After that he goes away. Every second day he comes, when the sun is over the house. And he has 7 heads. How then can you be a match for him, my son?
Mind your own business, mother,
answered the gazelle.
Don't mind other people's. Has the snake a sword?
He has a sword, and a sharp one too, and it cuts like a dash of lightning.
Give it to me, mother,
said the gazelle, and she unhooked the sword from the wall as she was bidden. You must be quick, she said, for he may be here at any moment. Hark! Is not the wind rising? He has come! They were silent, but the old woman peeped from behind a curtain and saw the snake busy at the pots which she had placed ready for him in the courtyard. And after he had done eating and drinking, he came to the door. "You old body!" he cried. "What smell is that smell inside that is not the smell of every day?" "Oh, master," answered she, "I am alone, as I always am. But today, after many days, I have sprinkled fresh scent all over me, and it is that which you smell. What else could it be, master?" At this time, the gazelle, who had been standing close to the door, beholding the sword in one of its front paws, and as the snake put in one of his heads through the hole that he had made so as to get in and out comfortably, it cut it off so clean that the snake really did not feel it. The second blow was not so straight, for the snake said to himself, "Who is that trying to scratch me?" And he stretched out a third head to see, but no sooner was a neck through the hole than the head went rolling to join the rest. When 6 of the heads were gone, the snake lashed its tail in such a fury that the gazelle and the old woman could not see each other for the dust it had made. And the gazelle said to him, "You have climbed all sorts of trees, but this you can't climb." And as the 7th head came darting through, it went rolling to join the rest. Then the sword fell rattling to the ground, for the gazelle had fainted. The old woman shrieked with delight when she saw her enemy was dead, and ran to bring water to the gazelle, and fanned it, and put it where the wind could blow on it, till it grew better, and gave a sneeze. And the heart of the old woman was glad, and she gave it more water, till by and by the gazelle got up.
"Show me this house," it said, "from beginning to end, from top to bottom, from inside to out."
So she arose and showed the Gazelle rooms full of gold and precious things, and other rooms full of slaves. "They're all yours, good and slaves," said she. But the Gazelle answered,
"You must keep them safe till I call my master."
For 2 days it lay and rested in the house, and fed on milk and rice, and on the 3rd day it bade the old woman farewell and started back to its master. And when he heard that the Gazelle was at the door, he felt like a man who was found at the time when all the prayers are granted, and he rose and kissed it, saying, "My father, you have been a long time. You have left sorrow for me. I cannot eat, I cannot drink, I cannot laugh. My heart felt no smile at anything, because of thinking of you." And the Gazelle answered,
"I am well, and where I come from it is well as one too. I wish that after 4 days you would take your wife and go home."
And as he said, "It is for you to speak. Where you go, I will follow."
"Then I shall go to your father-in-law and tell him this news."
"Go, my son." So the Gazelle went to the father-in-law and said,
"I am sent by my master to come and tell you that after 4 days he will go away with his wife to his own home."
"Must he really go so quickly? We have not yet sat much together, I and Sultan Darai, nor have we talked yet much together, nor have we yet ridden out together, nor have we eaten together. It is 14 days since he came." But the Gazelle replied,
"My lord, you cannot help it, for he wishes to go home, and nothing will stop him."
"Very good," said the Sultan, and he called all the people who were in town and commanded that the day his daughter left the palace, ladies and guards were to attend her on her way. And at the end of 4 days, a great company of ladies and slaves and horses went forth to escort the wife of Sultan Darai to their new home. They rode all day, and when the sun sank behind the hills, they rested, and ate of the food the Gazelle gave them, and lay down to sleep. And they journeyed on for many days, and they all, nobles and slaves, loved the Gazelle with a great love, more than they loved Sultan Darai. At last one day the signs of houses appeared, far, far off, and those who saw it cried out, "Gazelle!" And it answered,
"Ah, my mistress, that is the house of Sultan Darai."
At this news the women rejoiced much, and the slaves rejoiced much, and in the space of 2 hours they came to the gates, and the Gazelle bade them all stay behind, and went on to the house with Sultan Darai. When the old woman saw them coming through the courtyard, she jumped and shouted with joy, and as the Gazelle drew near, she seized it in her arms and kissed it. The Gazelle did not like this, and said to her,
"Old woman, leave me alone. The one to be carried is my master, and the one to be kissed is my master."
And she answered, "Forgive me, my son, I did not know this was our master." And she threw open all the doors so that the master might see everything that the rooms and storehouses contained. Sultan Darai looked about him, and at length he said, "Unfasten those horses that are tied up, and let loose those people that are bound, and let some sweep, and some spread the beds, and some cook, and some draw water, and some come out and receive the mistress." And when the Sultana and her ladies and her slaves entered the house and saw the rich stuffs that hung within, and the beautiful rice that was prepared for them to eat, they cried,
"Ah, you Gazelle, we have seen great houses and have seen people, and we have heard of things, but this house and you, such as you are, we have never seen or heard of."
After a few days, the ladies said they wished to go home again. The Gazelle begged them hard to stay, but finding they would not, it brought many gifts and gave some to the ladies and some to the slaves. And though they all thought the Gazelle greater 1,000 times than its master, Sultan Darai, the Gazelle and its master remained in the house many weeks, and one day it said to the old woman,
I came with my master to this place, and I've done many things for my master, good things, until today he has never asked me, well, Gazelle, how did you get this house? Who's the owner of it? And this house, where there are no people in it? All good things I've done for my master, and he's not one day done anything me good. But people say, if you want to do anyone good, don't do him good only, do him evil also, and there will be peace between you. So, Mother, I want to see the favors I have done to my master, and that he may do me the like.
Good, replied the old woman, and they went to bed. In the morning, when light came, the gazelle was sick to his stomach and feverish, and its legs ached. And it said,
Mother,
and she answered, "Here, my son." And it said,
go and tell my master upstairs the gazelle is very ill.
"Very good, my son, and if he should ask me what is the matter, what am I to say?"
Tell him all my body aches badly, have no single part without pain.
The old woman went upstairs, and she found the mistress and the master sitting on the couch of marble spread with soft cushions. And they asked her, "Well, old woman, what do you want?"
To tell the master the gazelle is ill, said she. What's the matter? Asked the wife. Oh, its body pains, and there is no part without pain. Well, what can I do? Make some gruel of red mullet and give it to it. But his wife stared and said, Oh, master, do you mean to tell me to make the gazelle gruel out of red mullet, which a horse would not eat? Master, that is not well.
But he answered, Oh, you're mad. Rice is only kept for people.
Master, this is not like a gazelle. It is the apple of your eye. If scent got into that, it would trouble you.
My wife, your tongue is long. And he left the room. The old woman saw she had spoken vainly, and went back weeping to the gazelle. When the gazelle saw her, said,
Mother, what is it? And why do you cry? If it be good, give me the answer, and if it be bad, give me the answer.
But the old woman would not speak, and the gazelle prayed to her to let it know the words of its master. At last she said, I went upstairs and found the mistress and the master sitting on a couch, and he asked me what I wanted. And I told him that you, his slave, were ill. And his wife asked what it was the matter, and I told her there was not a part of your body without pain. And the master told me to make some red millet and make you gruel. And the mistress said, Master, the gazelle is the apple of your eye. You have no child. This gazelle is like your child. So this gazelle is not one to be done evil to. This is a gazelle in form, but not a gazelle in heart. He is in all things better than a gentleman, be he who you may. And he answered her, Silly chatterer, your words are many. I know its price. I bought it for an 8. What loss will it be to me? The gazelle kept silence for a few moments, and then said, The elder said, one that does good like a mother. And I've done good to him, and I've got him this that the elder said. But go up again to the master and tell him the gazelle is ill, and if it has not drunk the gruel of red mullet. So the old woman returned and found the master and the mistress drinking coffee. And when he heard that the gazelle had said, he cried, Hold your peace, old woman, and stay your feet and close your eyes, and stop your tears with wax. And if the gazelle bids you to come to me, say your legs are bent and you cannot walk. And if it begs you to listen, say your ears are stopped with wax. And if it wishes to talk, reply with your tongue has got a hook in it. The old woman wept as she heard such words, because she saw that when the gazelle first came to the town, it was ready to sell its life to buy wealth for its master. Then it happened to get both life and wealth, and now it had no honor with its master. The tears sprung likewise from the eyes of the Sultan's wife, and she said,
I'm sorry for you, my husband. You should deal so wickedly with that gazelle.
But he only answered, Old woman, pay no heed to the talk of the mistress. Tell it to perish out of the way. I cannot sleep, I cannot eat, I cannot drink, for worry of that gazelle. Shall the creature that I bought for an eighth trouble me from morning till night? Not so, old woman. The old woman went downstairs, and there lay the gazelle, blood flowing from its nostrils. And she took it in her arms and said, My son, the good you did is lost. There only remains patience. And it said,
Mother, I shall die, for my soul is full of anger and bitterness. My face is ashamed that I should have done good to my master, and he should repay me with evil.
It paused for a moment, and then went on.
Mother, of the goods that are in this house, what do I eat? I may have had every day a basinful, and would my master be any poorer? But did the elders say, what he does good, that's like a mother?
And it said,
Go and tell my master that the gazelle is nearer death than life.
And she went and spoke as the gazelle had bidden her. But he answered, I have told you to trouble me no more. But his wife's heart was sore, and she said to him,
My master the gazelle has done to you. How has he failed you? The things you do to him are not good, and you will draw yourself the hatred of the people. For the gazelle is loved by all, by small and great, by women and men. My husband, I thought you had great wisdom, and you have not even a little.
But he answered, You are mad, my wife. The old woman stayed no longer, but went back to the gazelle, and followed secretly by the mistress, who called a maidservant and bade her take some milk and rice and cook it for the gazelle.
Take also this cloth, she said, to cover it, and with this pillow for its head. And if the gazelle wants more, let it ask me, not its master. And if it will, I will send it to a litter to my father, and he will nurse it till it is well.
The maidservant did as her mistress bade her, and said what her mistress had told her to say. But the gazelle made no answer, but turned over on its side, and died quietly. When the news spread abroad, there was much weeping among the people, and Sultan Darai arose in wrath and cried, You weep for that gazelle as if you wept for me! And after all, what is it but a gazelle that I bought for an eighth? But his wife answered,
Master, we looked upon the gazelle as we looked upon you. It was a gazelle who came to ask me for my father. It was a gazelle who brought me from my father. And I was given in charge to the gazelle by my father.
And when the people heard her, they lifted up their voices and spoke. We never saw you, we saw the gazelle. It was a gazelle who met us with trouble here. It was a gazelle who met us with rest here. And then, when such one departs from this world, when such a one departs this world, we weep for ourselves. We do not weep for the gazelle. And they said, furthermore, The gazelle did you much good, and if anyone says he could have done more for you, he is a liar. Therefore, to us who have done you so good, what treatment will you give? The gazelle has died from bitterness of soul, and you ordered your slaves to throw it into the well. Leave us alone, that we may weep. But Sultan Darai would not heed their words, and the dead gazelle was thrown into a well. When the mistress heard of it, she sent 3 slaves, and mounted on donkeys, with a letter to her father, the Sultan. And when the Sultan had read the letter, he bowed his head and wept like a man who had lost his mother. And he commanded horses to be saddled, and called to the governor and the judges and all the rich men, and said, Come now with me, let us go and bury it. Night and day they traveled, till the Sultan came to the well where the gazelle had been thrown. And it was a large well, built round a rock, with room for many people. And the Sultan entered, and the judges and the rich men followed. And when he saw the gazelle lying there, he wept afresh, and took it into his arms, and carried it away. When the three slaves went and told their mistress what the Sultan had done, and how all the people were weeping, she answered, I too have eaten no food, neither have I drunk water since the day the gazelle died. I have not spoken, and I have not laughed. The Sultan took the gazelle and buried it, and ordered the people to wear mourning for it. So there was a great mourning throughout the city. Now, after the days of mourning were at an end, the wife was sleeping at her husband's side, and in her sleep she dreamed that she was once more in her father's home. And when she awoke, it was no dream. And the man dreamed that he was on a dust heap, scratching. And when he woke, behold, that also was no dream, but the truth. And I can hold the ads back no longer. And Saribot, ban someone. For a masculine petrol 96 battery for being spam. So, I guess we'll go ahead and go to ads. So, see you in a bit. Look at that fluffy cat. He is just snoozing. I will have to disturb him after the stream. Go pet the fluffy beast. Anyway, ads are almost over. So, welcome back from the ads. I don't think I can get the next story done. Just a reminder that tomorrow we'll be over in Papa Penguin stream. Because we will be playing Cyberpunk Shards of the Edge. It'll be interesting. That much is a given. But we're doing it Saturday this week, then it'll be on Fridays the weeks after that. Which means no Friday Night Fairy Tales for a bit. No one minds. And again, I apologize for the internet disconnect during the first story. But there's just some things beyond my control. Unfortunately, the weather is one of them. So, I guess I will go ahead and type. Those are the red messages, because I haven't come up with anything new. And I think we'll be raiding Dusk. Because, well, it's always nice to raid friends. So hopefully I will possibly see you tomorrow on Papa Penguin stream. If we figure out how the co-streaming works, we might try that. Who knows? Until then, I hope you all have a wonderful night and some pleasant dreams. Good night, all.
In a quiet town where the shadows play, there's a little bookshop tucked away. During the day he wears a human face, the wolf from the lore in a cozy space. Dusty tomes line the shelves with care. Each story whispers secrets almost like a prayer. With every page turned, a world comes alive. In the heart of this wolf is where dreams thrive. Oh, he howls at the moon when the night draws near, shedding his skin, no more need for fear. In his library deep, where the stories unfold, he speaks of magic, of legends untold. When the sun goes down and the stars ignite, he drops the disguise and sighs with delight. Downstairs in his lair, in the warm glowing light, he gathers his friends for tales of the night. With a cup of tea and a heart full of glee, he weaves the enchantment, sets their spirits free. From princes and dragons to wishes and dreams, he breathes life into stories, or so it seems. Oh, he howls at the moon when the night draws near, shedding his skin,